Harris scores. With 19 seconds left. Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it. Oh! That's the finish. You get a layup, take it, and an and one. Fly ball.
Welcome inside of Dillon Automotive Gymnasium here in Greenfield, Indiana, here on NineStar TV as we get set for some Hoosier Heritage Conference action between the Pendleton Heights Arabians and the Greenfield Central Cougars. Good evening, everybody. Alongside Jim Leisure, I'm Kurt Darling. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Jim, good to be with you here tonight inside the den, as it's affectionately known here in Greenfield. Needless to say, the Greenfield Central Cougars looking to continue one of the best seasons that they've had in recent memory against a team here in Pendleton that, needless to say, would like to have a better season compared to recent memory.
No doubt about it, Kurt. Coach Luke Meredith has done a fantastic job with this program. Prior to him coming in, they weren't always competitive. Now he's got them much more than competitive with only one loss on the season.
And, of course, they're 12-1 to be exact under head coach Luke Meredith in his fourth year now as the head coach of the Cougars. As you see the starting lineups here, and one of those starters is here, Dylan Moles. Needless to say, he has been a huge factor in his time here at Greenfield Central. He's also paired up with Braylon Mullins as well. Needless to say, 20 points per contest. He is something special.
He really is, and again, he's one of those kids. Coach Meredith is in his fourth year. Well, Dylan, I believe, has been starting since his freshman year. Clearly a kid that Coach Meredith and his staff identified early as, you know what, we need to build around this young man.
And speaking of building around a young man, Pendleton Heights certainly has someone that they can do that with as well. That is Josiah Gustin. Only a sophomore at 6'7". He's averaging 12.5 points per contest. He's certainly some size that you can really work around here with this team.
Yeah, Pendleton's got a lot of good size on their ball club. Obviously, Gustin is the biggest one. And, you know, that's a kid that we've kind of seen here on NineStar TV grow up before our eyes, because he started as a freshman. And as a 6'7" freshman, honestly, he was a little meek and maybe not real physical. But by the end of the year, he was getting better, and he's only gotten better every time I've seen him. As I say all the time, I'd much rather have his future than my past.
So it's going to be sophomore versus sophomore here at the opening tip here of this IHSAA conference matchup here. It's going to be Mullins facing off here with Gustin. We're underway here inside of Dillon Automotive Gymnasium here in Greenfield.
And the tip there is ultimately controlled by Hunter Suhena. And, you know, we talked before the game, Kurt, about how to pronounce his name. We had to actually ask one of the Pendleton cheerleaders. It's a good thing we did, because he's in the starting lineup.
Indeed he is, in for Dontrez Braxton, who is usually one of the regular starters at the point guard position for Pendleton Heights. He is out tonight with a bum foot.
Yeah, Braxton is second on the team in assists. He'd probably be first if he hadn't missed those games to injuries, but he's got 25 on the season. Greenfield in there 3-2, and, man, they are so good at this. And at the top of it, you see Mullins. His wingspan is just tremendous. He puts such a pressure as a turnover there, puts so much pressure on the other team.
First turnover of the ball game, and that leads right to an easy lay-in there for Braylon Mullins, the sophomore who's averaging 17 a contest.
Well, now they're going to extend this 1-2-2 out, and again, Mullins is at the top, as you see him right there at about the volleyball line, and another turnover, and this is just going to...
And this might be indicative of how this game might be going all night long if Greenfield can keep up this pressure right here. That's already 2 turnovers in the first minute here for Pendleton Heights.
Yeah, and, you know, Pendleton averages about 15 a night, and, you know, when you find out, you know, hey, we're 4-11, and why do we lose games? One of the reasons is because you turn the basketball over too much. I mean, you're going to turn it over some, but 8, 9 a night, and almost another one there. You just can't turn it over like this.
And they get it down low this time, and patiently waiting there is Braden Kanitz. And he gets that one to go.
Kanitz averages about 6 a night. He's a nice player. He was last year's ball game between these two teams ended in a Pendleton Heights overtime win, 54-50. Kanitz had 5 in that contest. Obviously more than enough for the margin of victory.
Thinking better of the three-pointer there was Braden Robertson. Instead, he steps on the baseline, and that's going to be a turnover here. And, of course, you know, you talk about these two teams here, Jim Leisure, is the fact that GC last year, they were super, super young, but also very, very raw, but also had a lot of potential. Pendleton Heights, got rid of a lot of experience from a season ago.
Yeah, they graduated the Jamison Dunham kid, who's awful good at yet another turnover. That's 3 turnovers in 4 possessions.
And back the other way, missing it is Dylan Moles, but he's fouled.
I'll go against 24 Mazingo, but you lost a lot of points last year. Dunham had 22 in that contest last year, in that 54-50 overtime win. And again, we talked about this before the game too, Kurt. There's not a single senior on this Pendleton Heights roster, not one.
Something unheard of in high school basketball. And we talked beforehand as the first free throw goes there for Dylan Moles, is the fact that this particular senior class, they at one point they had at least maybe 17 to 20 kids on an A and B squad in middle school. None playing for Pendleton Heights now.
Yeah, you got to believe as 8th graders, like you said, they had an A and a B team. And where did they all go? They couldn't have all moved away, could they?
Possibly. Guston unselfishly gives that off to his teammate Kennitz, who can't finish.
Well, they got the extra pass, and every basketball coach in America talks about making the extra pass. They made it. Unfortunately, they couldn't convert it.
So through the first couple of minutes or so, it's been a little bit of a stalemate here as both teams struggling to find the bucket.
It looks like Greenfield's decided to slow it down just a little bit. Again, honestly, you can't make mistakes fast enough to get better. At some point, you got to slow it down, reset, and just go back to basic fundamentals.
DeJarnett had a little bit of a feed there, but decides to kick it back outside.
Will's a nice player, too. He's been a good addition to this Greenfield team. This is a very good basketball team.
And there is a nice take by the sophomore again, Braylon Mullins. Mullins, who is already getting looks from the likes of IUPUI, only as a sophomore. Nice give-and-go action. And Sahina cannot finish. And we're going to get a blocking foul in transition.
It looks like it's going to go against Guston. He may have actually gotten hit maybe in the face. He looks like he's kind of holding his nose a little bit there. Nothing flagrant or anything intentional, just the contact of the loose ball, the out-of-control nature of that loose ball.
So second team foul here on Pendleton Heights in the first 3 minutes. Moles trying to find an opening, and the Arabians doing a good job of keeping him contained so far. Again, he's dangerous from behind the arc. He can shoot at 48% from 3. Robertson tries it in that regard as well. He can't convert, but gets his own rebound. And once again, it's the sophomore Mullins.
Well, nice job again. If you're going to follow your shot, get the rebound, and then he starts to go to the rim and realizes, hey, I got somebody open on the block, gives it up. Nice job.
6 of the first 7 points here for GC scored by Mullins. Guston going right to the rim in the paint. And he clanks that off the front of the iron. Moles double teamed. And they're going to get a foul on Pendleton Heights.
Well, this is not good. It's the second one on Josiah. And again, it's a good call. You talk about all the time in basketball player displacement. And as Moles was driving to the baseline, you're going to see it here. Guston there just uses his hips and moves him. And that's the call.
Just that little bump right there of the knee. Gets 2 fouls here for Guston, who remains in the ball game here for head coach Adam Ballard. Turnover here by GC. Quick in transition come the Arabians. And a nicely made shot there by Aaron Cookston.
Good body control, just gives their little baby hook shot. One of the things about leaving Guston in the game, and it does look like that Pendleton's going to sub it, could be for him. It's such a conundrum. If you put the kid on the bench while he sorts through his fouls, he can't play.
Running hook there by Robertson.
And if you leave him in the ball game and he fouls out, then he can't play. So
it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yep.
Either way, you got to do what you got to do. Coughing it up down low there is Kaplinger for Pendleton Heights, and right down the middle of the lane goes DeJarnett. Timeout here taken by Pendleton Heights. Coach Adam Ballard has seen enough here in this opening 5 minutes or so. It's been all GC here, to say the least.
Yeah, you're going to see it's coming right into your living room. As always, great camera work by our crew here. DeJarnett just lays it softly off the glass, and gosh, if you're Coach Ballard, I don't know. You get a great look at him there. He's a good-looking man, but he's probably going to be bald by the end of the year for just pulling his hair out. I mean, 5 turnovers. And honestly, Kurt, I normally have a tendency to drop one or so. It could be 6.
I always yield to you, my friend.
Yeah, and you know what? We played 5 minutes, and we're averaging a turnover a minute. Fellas, this is why coaches get out of the game. But again, I like what he did. You call timeout, you got to refocus them. Say, guys, listen, stop. Just stop. Right? We didn't practice this. We never once said all week in practice, let's just play out of control and reckless, right? That's what we're doing. So let's go back to what we practiced all week. They've had all week to practice, right? I mean, this is the first game of probably a back-to-back. So you know what? We basically, this is a conference game. We've been setting for this, and this is not what we've been setting up.
You got a shot of Coach Luke Meredith there of Greenfield Central as well, again in his 4th year. The Cougars ranked number 17 in the IBCA coaches poll, although they are unranked still in the AP poll for Class 4A.
Yeah, this team needs to be ranked. They're again, 1 loss to an undefeated New Pal team.
Outside 3 on the way from Pendleton. That's off the mark from Mozingo. But the Arabians get the offensive rebound. Going along the baseline, and there is Suhina making use of the time he's getting here in relief of Dontrez Braxton. Certainly a good bucket out of the timeout right there.
No doubt about it, and that's what you want, obviously. Again, Pendleton's going to go man-to-man here, maybe a little bit of a matchup kind of thing.
Mullins from deep is off the mark. And the last time that we were here at Greenfield Central was when GC actually had their only loss of the season. That was back against New Palestine. That was a game that Braylon Mullins fouled out of, and needless to say, down the stretch, the Cougars really missed his presence. Mullins gets it off of the forced turnover from Moles. Off the backboard, Mullins trying to get some alley-oop action there from Moles, who was not on the same page, and it results in a turnover.
Yeah, try to get maybe a little too cute there. I mean, honestly, if I'm a coach, I don't like to see this. Just dunk it, lay it in, put it in with your forehead, but tried to get a little too cute.
Well, you also saw a little bit of defense actually right there from, looked like it was Suhina who took a little bit of a spill right there, actually keeping Moles from going up to get that oop.
Right. Just play the game. I mean, leave the ESPN highlights for the kids across the court there.
There you see the ESPN broadcasters booth in the student section there for GC. I guess we don't need to be here then Jim Leisure. Our job's been covered.
Yeah, those kids are getting after it, too. You think Dick Vitale's got a lively guy.
Speaking of a lively guy, there is Braylon Mullins, who knocks down the first 3 of the ball game.
Got him for 9, man, and again, we're not even out of the first quarter.
Again, he's a young sophomore, averaging 17 a contest. He's shooting at 51% from behind the arc this season. So more often than not, he's going to make it from that distance. As a 30-second timeout going to be called here by Luke Meredith in Greenfield Central.
Well, what you're seeing a lot of here, Kurt, is Pendleton Heights and their young guards are bringing the ball just past the 10-second line, and they're picking it up. And they're getting themselves trapped, which forces them into a bad pass, which leads to a turnover. Now, Coach Meredith, the play was right in front of him. His player, I believe, was D. Jarnett, had the basketball. He was on the ground. He moves ahead and uses a timeout to save the possession. But, again, I now have Pendleton Heights with 8 turnovers, and that's just awful.
Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight here on NineStar TV. Myself, Kurt Darling, alongside Jim Leisure. Certainly a good game so far here when it comes to Greenfield Central, but Pendleton Heights, 4-11 coming into this contest, and you talked about it as well before when we got on the air, is the fact that Pendleton Heights, they're 4-11, but look at the schedule they're playing this year.
Yeah, 8 of those 11 losses, Kurt, have come to ball clubs with at least 10 wins. 12-3 Anderson, they lost to them twice, first game of the season and then again in the Madison County tournament. But a 14-1 Wapahani team, a 14-0 New Pal team. It's tough.
Dylan Moles knocks it down right there with the J from the foul stripe.
And then add to the fact that you've got no seniors, so you're not going to have tremendous senior leadership if you don't have any seniors. And then you add to the fact that Dontrell Braxton, your point guard, is over there in a boot. Bad combination.
Trying to answer with a 3 of his own there is Mozingo, and he is short.
Second rebound of the game for Mullins.
Mullins steps back, 3 on the way. Bingo! Braylon Mullins cannot miss tonight. 2 threes as well as 3 field goals from inside. He has 12 points. Another steal, and why not? Let's see more Braylon Mullins.
Well, again, you had a tremendous mismatch there with Mullins going against 5'8" Isaac Wilson.
Sahina on the no-look bounce pass with the cut to Kaplinger, and he knocks that out of bounds. Another Pendleton Heights turnover.
Good job of officiating there. That ball was clearly tipped out by Cookston. He just kind of reached up there. I think he was trying to tip it to a teammate and unfortunately tipped it out of bounds.
Moles coughs it up in transition, and at the buzzer, not going to go on the full court heave. After quarter number one, the Greenfield Central Cougars all over Pendleton Heights 21-6. This is not ESPN, this is NineStar TV. Back in a moment. Welcome back here inside of Dellin Automotive Gymnasium, the home of the Greenfield Central Cougars here on NineStar TV alongside Jim Leisure. I'm Kurt Darling, and Jim, and needless to say, this should probably just be the Greenfield Central Braylon Mullinses against the Pendleton Heights Arabians, because he has 14 points, more than half of the points scored here for GC in the first quarter. Yeah, you know, at some point, it'd be nice to see Coach Meredith do like a Norman Dale from the movie Hoosiers there, where the referee comes over and says, Coach, you only got 4 players. He says, my team's on the floor. Just let him play with floor, then challenge him a little bit. But now, again, Pendleton can certainly get back into this thing. Years ago, I actually saw a New Pal Pendleton game. It was 26-1 at halftime, New Pal over Pendleton. Not because, Pendleton was getting good shots. They just didn't hit them. That game ended up going into overtime, so lots of things can happen. There's still 3 quarters of basketball left to be played here in Greenfield. Cutting to the basket is Moles. Goes right over Isaac Wilson. Dylan Moles wanting to get in on some of the action that Mullins has had. And why not D. Jarnett? He gets the steal. Kicks it outside to Mullins. And he is 3 for 4 from behind the arc here tonight.
You know what, if you're Coach Ballard, you just got to be shaking your head. I don't know what to do here. Is there anybody on the bench that's better than the 5 I got out there? Maybe. Then make a substitution. But again, watch, see if we pick up the ball right here. We do. Again, you pick it up just past the 10-second line, you get yourself trapped.
Gustin almost travels right there and resets here to Caden Sims. Underneath, nicely done by Cookston.
Nice cut, nice pass, and I do think Josiah was able to keep that pivot foot down. It was close, but I do not think he drugged the pivot foot, so and a good job of looking down and finding the cutter.
Gustin also still playing with 2 fouls here, as Moles, doing all the work himself on this possession, knocks down the baseline jumper.
And again, you say, well, why is Greenfield pressing this situation? Well, Greenfield is trying to win this sectional. They're not necessarily trying to win this game. They want to, obviously. It's a conference game. But you're trying to get better as a basketball team.
Pushing it ahead now is Owen Anderson. Outside, Mullins again for 3. He has hit 4 3-pointers in a row, forcing another timeout taken here by Pendleton Heights. Actually, it's going to be Greenfield Central calling the timeout here, actually. No, it's going to be Pendleton Heights on the full timeout here. So now that we got that all squared away. Again, there's Adam Ballard and staff, and also there are the IHSAA standings. Of course, many of these teams you're going to be seeing here are going to be in the Greenfield Central sectional. But right now, New Palestine is the team to beat right now here, 14-1. That one loss for Greenfield Central to New Pal.
Yeah, and if you're Greenfield, you're going to do a little bit of scoreboard watching, right? You got to take care of your own business, but you're hoping somebody, maybe Mount Vernon, which is a huge rivalry. New Pal, Mount Vernon, again, like all good rivalries, you can throw the records out. So take care of our business here at Greenfield Central, and then hope that the Marauders or somebody can knock off the Dragons and at least end up being co-champs.
And speaking of New Palestine, like you mentioned it a couple times, is the fact that for Pendleton, well, for Greenfield Central in particular, as well as Pendleton Heights, they're both in the same sectional. Going to be playing right here in sectional number 9. But so is New Palestine. And you mentioned it, how if you're any of these teams at this point in the season, you're prepping for New Pal, getting ready for that section.
That's what I would be doing. You got to prep a little bit. You're going to look at let's say you're playing Shelbyville. You're going to look at a little bit of Shelbyville film. You're going to run a little bit of their sets. But I tell you what, about probably 80% of my practice would be gearing up to win that sectional. And right now, the sectional goes through New Pal.
Down low, going for the block. It's going to be a foul coming up here on GC as the and one goes for Caden Sims. And it's going to be D. Jarnett getting his first personal foul. That's actually the first foul of the game here or rather the second foul here on GC.
Nice job. You got to finish through contact. Young man's a junior, averages about 2 a night.
Of course, Caden Sims also a starting wide receiver on the Pendleton Heights football team.
All right, now Pendleton's going to work on their, well, I thought they were. Maybe it's a little more token press. I thought they were going to kind of come out in a 1-2-2, three-quarter court, but then they walked out of it.
It's a 20-point game right now. It's been all GC from the get-go. Robertson takes it in from the corner. Can't finish. Cookston takes it in again. He's been working hard down low.
Well, you got to chip away at it. Obviously, you know, when you're down as much as they are, if you can get a couple stops on one end, which they just did, and then get a bucket on the other, you can try to get yourself back into it.
Quick 4-point swing here for the Arabians. Mullins kicks it outside. Owen Anderson, he knocks down a tray of his own.
You know, you talk about that sectional 9. Kurt, you know, it's New Palestine, Anderson, Greenfield Central, Richmond, Mount Vernon, Muncie Central, and Pendleton. I know Muncie Central's like 14-3 or somewhere like that. I mean, 12-3, really good teams in that section.
Knocking it down the other way this time is Evan Mazingo. He's now 1 for 4 from behind the arc here tonight. Of course, you mentioned Muncie Central. That'll be one of the final games we cover here on NineStar TV later on this season on February 24th. They'll be taking on Newcastle. They're at historic Chrysler Fieldhouse. Robertson, he can't connect from behind the arc. Cookston almost coughs it up, gets it outside to Guston. And here's Sims in the corner. And he puts it off a foot of one of the GC defenders. Looks like that may have been DeJarnett. And it stays here with the Arabians.
You'll see it on the replay here. It goes off the foot, just like you said, it was, in fact, off Will DeJarnett. And it will stay with Pendleton.
Fresh offensive possession here for Pendleton Heights. Blocked from behind there is Robertson. And he comes away with the steal. So the turnovers racking up here for the Arabians. Wide open is Mullins. You cannot leave him that wide open. That is 5 3-pointers made now by the sophomore.
Well, I have no idea what the record is here at Greenfield Central, but he's got to be at some point approaching it.
Good ball movement down the court by the Arabians. Just they can't finish. Mulls clears some room for himself, and a quick shot doesn't fall.
Yeah, probably not the shot you want. Rushed it a little bit.
So Braylon Mullins already has 23 points here for Greenfield Central. That is more than half of the points of the 37 they've scored so far. So Dylan Mulls now will slow things down. DeJarnett kicks it outside. Owen Anderson tries another tray. That's off the mark. Pushing it ahead, Caden Sims in stride.
Nice finish with the left hand. On the left side, you want to finish with the left hand. Not everybody can do that. I never really could. I mean, it's difficult. I'm right-handed. It's difficult to shoot with your left hand, but you got to do that down there underneath the block, otherwise you risk the block.
Mullins breaks the ankles and hits from behind the arc. What a move by Braylon Mullins. This kid is having the game of his season so far. And a turnover by Pendleton on the other end.
Unfortunately, that is their 13th turnover in less than a half a basketball.
And this is a team that averages 15 a game.
Yeah, they're on a pace, though, yeah, for almost 30 if they keep this up. Which, even if they're just 2-point shots, I mean, that's 60 points of opportunities you've just left on the table.
Hard one taken there by Tyler Kirchhoff, a senior who averages 10 a game.
And that time you saw Tyler finish with his left hand on the right side of the bucket, and yet another turnover.
Steal in transition, and the flush by Moles. Greenfield Central absolutely pummeling Pendleton Heights here today. Guston tries to stop the bleeding on his own, and he does a little bit right there. That's his first bucket of the ball game.
Greenfield doing a really nice job on him. He's trying to get the ball down low. Pendleton doesn't have the guard experience to get it to him. Between guarding him well down low and just the guard play for Pendleton.
Moles with the 15-footer. So Dylan Moles ramping things up here, scoring along with his teammate Braylon Mullins.
And when you have a trapping team like Greenfield, when you catch the basketball, you got to go. You got to go do something with it. Have a plan, catch the ball, and go. If you catch the ball and stand and look, in about a half a second, you're going to have two white jerseys right in your grill. You got to have a plan.
Asking for some help there is Cookston, and he just throws it right into the hands of Kirkhoff, and Moles does the wise thing and lays it in. Almost looked like he was tempted to do a glass alley-oop right there.
Yeah, the last one didn't end so well.
Gustin left wide open underneath in transition.
So Gustin says, look, if you want to know how to dunk, I can show you that real quick.
Final minute of the first half. Needless to say, it has been lopsided.
See, this is a part of your game, though, that you can work on. If you're Greenfield Central, you might want to just how much time can we salt away? You may find yourself in a sectional game where you got to salt away, all 50 seconds of it.
Or shoot it from behind the arc.
Well, yeah, or that's part of it, too. It will take a good look. We're not really trying necessarily to score, but we'll take a good look if we can get it, and they got it, and Anderson just drains it.
This is one of the first games this season that Greenfield Central has scored at least 50 points in a first half.
Yeah, they average 64 a night, and they're only 13 away from that, obviously.
So Pendleton Heights likely going to hold for the last shot here in the final 5 seconds. Instead, it's tipped out of bounds there by GC. It stays here with the Arabians with just 2 and some change left to go.
Another thing that I love about this Greenfield team, Kurt, is that, they got some really good scorers in Mullins and Mulls, but they also got DeJarnett and Robertson and Kirkhoff and guys who just play hard. This is a very good basketball team. Do not sleep on them in this sectional.
It pays to have a reliable bench, and that's certainly what Luke Meredith has in his arsenal here this season. Gustin has to get a shot off. He puts it long off the glass and gets it to go from near half court. So a three-pointer cuts it in just a little bit here for the Arabians, but it has been all Greenfield Central in this first half. 51-25 your halftime score. We'll go ahead and take a quick timeout. Halftime coming at you next. We'll be back here for the third quarter in just a little bit here on NineStar TV.
Who knew that NineStar Connect, a local smart utility, has the fastest internet in Indiana? NineStar offers speeds up to 2 gig. That's upload and download speeds. Try getting that from any other provider. No data limits or caps on speed. The speed you pay for is the speed you get. NineStar has state-of-the-art fiber optics with a dedicated line to each house. NineStar Connect, Indiana's fastest internet. Who knew?
2 minutes to go here until the start of the second half here on NineStar TV alongside Jim Leisure. I'm Kurt Darling. The score, that's not a typo, ladies and gentlemen, 51-25. GC all over Pendleton Heights here through the first 2 quarters. Jim, needless to say, it's been a really good first half here for the Greenfield Central Cougars, led off of 26 first half points here by this guy right here, Braylon Mullins.
Yeah, he was just honestly unconscious in the first half. Hit 6 3-pointers, has 26 points total at halftime. And it's kind of funny, Greenfield's just now getting back on the court with about a minute and a half. I'm sorry, Pendleton on the floor. So you're going to see another, probably another Mullins 3. Yep. And Greenfield just now coming out. So I don't know if Coach Meredith was just in there making sure everyone knows their role. This one obviously getting a little out of hand. So letting the youngsters know, hey, when you get in the ball game, this is what we're going to run. You see another highlight here. This is Owen Anderson of one of his 2 3-pointers. Young man that came in and just does a nice job. Of course, when you're wide open like that, it's not quite as difficult.
Of course, that was one of what would eventually be 8 made 3-pointers by Greenfield Central between Owen Anderson and this guy right here, Braylon Mullins. He had 6 of them to equal out to a portion of his 26 points. Now if you're Pendleton Heights here, obviously it's one of those things where you just got to really hunker down and just try and do whatever you can. Although one saving grace, though, was the fact that Josiah Gustin, in spite of the fact that picking up 2 fouls there in the first quarter, he went the entire second quarter without picking up another foul, so you can at least rely on a few more minutes from him here in the second half.
Which goes back to what I was saying at the time as we see Gustin, this half-court buzzer beater just past the 10-second line that banks in. As a coach, you say, all right, 2 fouls first quarter. Do I take him out? Do I run the risk of getting a third? But you know what? The kid needs to learn how to play with fouls. Because if he doesn't learn how to be smart, if he doesn't learn how to adjust his game when he's in a little bit of foul trouble, he's going to foul out anyway, at some point, and then he's out of the game. So I'm just, the more I watch basketball at this level at least, I'm leaning toward leaving them in the game. Just leave them in the game, because if you take them out, they can't help you. They're sitting on the bench, right? We'll put them in the game, leave them in there, let them learn how to play.
So Pendleton Heights will start the second half with the basketball here, with 2 quarters left to play here in this IHSAA conference matchup.
And you watch the game within the game, Tyler Kirchhoff is just absolutely hounding Evan Mazingo here. I mean, Kirchhoff, he's not even really watching the game. He's watching Mazingo. He doesn't know what's going on behind him. This is just a box and one.
Mazingo is the deep ball threat for Pendleton Heights. He shoots 41% from 3 this season. Cookston trying his luck at a tray. That doesn't fall. And a big block there by Mullins on the attempted shot from Kanitz. And that's another turnover for Pendleton Heights. And by your count, I would believe that'd be 14 turnovers now here for Pendleton.
Yeah, I went to Ball State, so I don't count real fast, but I'll have them up. Let's see. There's 4, 8, 11, 14, 15, 16.
I mean, I went to Indiana State, and I don't count well either. So
well, good. Maybe
it's not a Ball State thing. Trust me.
It's more an indictment on just the educational system as a whole.
Braden Robertson gets fouled, and he'll go to the line. By the way, nice obscure movie reference right there.
Exactly,
for those of you who know what it is.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that you know. And that foul was actually against Robertson, so that'll be his first. He slaps down a little bit on Hunter Suhena. Suhena with a basketball. That's one way to break the press, though. Get it in the middle, and then you got a 3-way go with it. So, and, you saw each kid that caught the basketball had a plan. They got rid of it right now. I don't care if you get rid of it. You can hold on to it, go somewhere. Don't just stand there like a lamppost and get yourself trapped.
Again, Hunter Suhena, one of the players in today here with the injured Dontrez Braxton. Meanwhile, nice take inside there by Kanitz. First bucket of the second half there by Pendleton Heights. Not a moment too soon. 2.5 minutes in here to the third quarter. Moles almost loses the dribble. And we'll cut it back up top. Again, if you're Greenfield Central, you can afford to take your time here on each possession.
It looks like Gustin now is going to check Mullins again, so the 6'7" Gustin is going to try to at least alter his shot.
And now we have an offensive foul away from the ball. It's going to be on Greenfield Central. And that's going to be DeJarnett picking up his second.
Yeah, a little bit of a moving screen there. Happens a lot in basketball. You're going to see it right there. He's just right there. He's just kind of moving as he's setting that pick.
And going up and coming down with the rebound on the missed shot there is Robertson.
Yeah, even with 3 officials, a lot of those moving screens inside kind of go unnoticed. It has to be either egregious or, again, the official has to really be looking for it.
Turnover there by Dylan Moles.
I have Greenfield for 5.
5 turnovers through 2.5 quarters. That's a pretty good one right there. Not good here for Pendleton Heights, as Mullins has a rare miss from behind the arc. And he opts not to try again there. He leaves it for Moles this time, and he can't rattle that one in either.
Now, Mullins actually stepped back and tried the 3. He had a clear lane to the bucket. It was going to be a 2-on-1. Now, whether or not that defender was going to come to him and force him to drop it, he decided to go for the 3. He might be honestly worried more about the school record of 3s than he is just playing the daggone game. Another
turnover. Moles going to take it right in for another flush. 15 points for Dylan Moles tonight. Of course, Moles has a season high of 30 points scored against Decatur Central earlier this season. And a takeover, some contested defense right there by Mozingo.
Pendleton's going to use their version of the three-quarter, half-court trapping press there.
Mullins in the corner. Three-pointer number 7. Timeout taken here by Greenfield Central. It's a full timeout. Well, and there you see Adam Ballard just doing what he can to coach up his team against a Greenfield Central squad that this is probably one of the best squads I think I've ever seen here out of Greenfield Central. As again, Adam Ballard in his 3rd year as a head coach here at Pendleton Heights. He's 152 and 134 in his 12th year, having come here from Covington, Delphi, and Vincennes Reveille as well.
Yeah, and he won 5 sectionals in a row at Covington before coming to Greenfield. So again, you could say, well, they had a great run of kids. Well, not necessarily, not when it's 5 years, as you see Moles here kicking the ball out to Mullins for yet his 7th three-pointer. But he knows how to coach winning basketball, and he's in his 3rd year, and I know they're 4-11, but again, they played a very difficult schedule, 8 of those losses coming against teams that have 10 or more wins. Next year, they're going to have 7 or 8 seniors. They're going to have a good junior class because they start and play a lot of sophomores as well. I just hope that Coach Ballard gets the opportunity to at least see this thing through, because as tough as it is now, some of these kids, like Moles, for example, will be graduated. I know New Pal graduates 5 or 6 good seniors in Stevens and the 2 Nunley boys. So there is hope on the horizon if people in Pendleton can be patient.
Meanwhile, speaking of Braylon Mullins, that three-pointer gives him a new season high on the year. His previous season high, 27 points against Newcastle. He now has 29 points. Another turnover in transition. And Mullins gives us a 30-burger tonight. He has 31. By the way, and speaking of that Newcastle game for GC, as there's a good take by Mozingo right to the rim, but Greenfield Central had a win earlier this year against Newcastle on the road back on January 13th. That was GC's first win at Newcastle since 2015 in a series where Newcastle leads the series 30-6. So a lopsided series there between them and Newcastle. Just indicative again of how much this team has grown over the past couple of seasons.
Well, and a couple things to remember too about that is, back in the 70s and 80s, Newcastle was still really good at, Chrysler, you mentioned Chrysler Arena, was still employing a lot of people there in town, and they were really a basketball power, and that was even before class basketball. Newcastle was competing for regionals and semi-states pretty much every year. So that kind of leads some of that, unbalanced one-loss record there.
Three-pointer doesn't go there for Guston. And we're going to get a foul here. Looks like it's going to be against Pendleton Heights.
Yeah, I think it's a good call. I mean, Cookson is kind of going, what, me? Who, me? But, I mean, because it was inadvertent, he's thinking, what? I was just kind of going with the ball, and I got knocked to the floor. You're going to see it on the replay here. But he wasn't quite set. That could have easily been really a no call.
Either way, it's Greenfield Central basketball. .245 left to go here in quarter number 3. Cutting it inside to Mullins, going for the and one. Instead, he's going to go to the line for 2 foul shots.
Well, they're saying it's on the floor. I mean, the official immediately waved it off. Eventually got around to saying it was on the floor.
And that's a back-to-back foul there for Cookston, giving Pendleton Heights their first 2 fouls of the half.
Owen Anderson has been a nice find by Coach Meredith. I don't remember him playing a lot in that New Pal game.
In fact, he was not on the roster as far as I can tell when it comes to back when they were playing New Pal earlier this year. His first game was back on December 17th against Lawrenceburg.
Officials are looking for some help here.
And again, Cookston picks up his 3rd foul.
Let's see if we can watch on the replay. I thought it was right there. Yep. Okay.
Just kind of shoulder checked him a little bit right there into the chest. And Mullins wisely just standing his ground.
Yeah, I thought maybe Caden Sims was in there. I saw the 13, but it clearly was not on him.
Moles trying to make some space for himself. Can't connect from the elbow. Pushing it up court. Sims leaves it back outside. And a take by Mozingo. Can't get the shooter's roll. Mullins evading the defensive pressure. And Greenfield Central taking their time here on this possession. Kirchhoff kicks it back out. Owen Anderson another three. That's off the front of the iron. Pushing it ahead again. Nearly another turnover, and it is a turnover in transition by GC, or for GC rather.
You know, I want to beat a dead horse. That's I'll give the fans something to think about. Pendleton has as many turnovers right now as the number of the late great Roberto Clemente, who played baseball, Hall of Famer, 3,000, exactly 3,000 hits for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So if you know what Clemente's number was, or if you know the height of the right field wall at PNC Park, you'll know what number that is.
Only you would know that.
Yeah, it's 21. I didn't want to embarrass anybody, but it's... Oh, that's how I remember everything. I remember phone numbers by just who the players were.
Kirchhoff goes along the baseline. Up top again, Anderson fakes the pass outside and a nice take down the middle.
Well, I don't know where they got him, but he's a nice player. And again, if he didn't play in the New Pal game, all the more reason why that upcoming potential New Pal game in the sectional is going to be an absolute monster. This place will be packed. It is at Greenfield. Place holds 4,600 people.
Sims tries to get it underneath to Gustin. He has just been completely taken out of the equation tonight. Alley-oop to Dylan Moles. Give the assist to Tyler Kirchhoff.
I have no problem with that one. That's a good play, good basketball play. The thing off the glass, I mean, now you're just showing off.
That was a pass directly to his teammate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was an alley-oop. Leave it up by the rim, let the cut it down. We start banging them off the backboard and stuff like that.
Certainly hope we have a replay of that. Indeed we do. Nice camera work here by our NineStar crew. Kirchhoff to Moles. A heck of a combination right there.
Kirchhoff again, man, really nice player. Just does all those little things.
And the three-burger falls there for Mozingo.
Mozingo doing all he can. That's a young man. It's a sophomore.
At the end of quarter number 3, some fireworks here for GC as they are all over Pendleton Heights, 62-34, going to quarter number 4 here on NineStar TV.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 160,000 participants here in Indiana who take part in high school sports.
Welcome back here to Dellin Automotive Gymnasium here in Greenfield, here on NineStar TV alongside Jim Leisure. I'm Kurt Darling. Jim, 31 points for Braylon Mullins. He leads all scorers right now, but heck of a play here dished up by Tyler Kirchhoff to the second leading scorer of the day. That's Dylan Moles.
Yeah, good court awareness on Kirchhoff's part. Good communication. I'm sure that Moles was probably saying something like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And then that's when Kirchhoff kind of took a quick look over his shoulder and saw just the flash of the white shirt and said, "Here, do what you can with it."
Final quarter here as get some nice music played here by the sound crew here today inside of Dellin Automotive Gymnasium. Excellent environment as always here. Special thanks to them as well here for setting up our crew here inside for a good game. Trying to cut it inside to Mullins, and it's turned over back in. Coach Meredith still going with the majority of his starters here right now, but one player that we haven't seen a lot of tonight that's in now is Jacob Hinton. He's averaging 2 points a contest.
But now Hinton's a kid whose name we've called several times this year on NineStar TV. I don't remember if it was a New Pal game or not. But again, he's a decent varsity basketball player who can help you win games. This Greenfield team is loaded, and anybody that doesn't think that, well, you know, Coach Meredith is this and that, I don't know what he is, but I'll tell you what, he can coach.
Coach Hinton is, or rather, Jacob Hinton is only a junior, but he has a season-high 17 points against Newcastle as Mazingo buries another 3.
So imagine this basketball team next year with those 6 or 7 seniors and Mazingo as a junior. They're going to be awfully, awfully good.
And just so that we've mentioned it in the case that it actually ends up happening, Anderson loading up a 3 and burying it there. That's now three-pointer number 3 for him. He has 11 points, but that puts us right close to the 30-point margin. New high school rule here implemented last year, 35 points equals a running clock, just like you see in football.
Trying to do a quick count here on three-pointers from Greenfield. I got Moles with 1. I got Anderson with 3. Kirchhoff's got 6 or 7.
Or rather,
7?
Mullins has 7.
Mullins, thank you.
That is correct.
That is efficiency from behind the arc.
So much so that they shoot 44% as a team on the season.
Which, again, goes towards that. I mean, you know, a good basketball team, if you can shoot 35 to 37 from behind the arc at the high school level, that's pretty good. 44 is just ridiculous. See that ball that kind of almost got into foul ball territory here as Cookston's going to get his 4th, I believe.
Looks to be the case, indeed it is. That is 4 quick fouls here now for Aaron Cookston. In fact, he has 4 of the 5 fouls committed here by Pendleton Heights in this second half. Another turnover there by Pendleton Heights. Jacob Hinton getting in there on the steal before he was fouled.
Yeah, as you see, just the slap on the wrist there. But we were talking about, you know, they're twice this year on NineStar, we've had to broadcast from underneath the basket, once at New Palestine and once at Shenandoah. Oddly enough, both of those times with Brendan King, and Brendan being the play-by-play guy for the South Bend Cubs, he's used to having foul balls coming into the booth.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Hinton on the cut inside.
His first bucket of the night. But yeah, Brendan is like a Secret Service agent, just protecting me from these errant basketballs, willing to take one.
Certainly looks the part, too, with that black pea coat that he wears all around in the winter.
Yeah, he's got a series of trench coats.
Anderson again from deep.
We got to get the story on this kid. I'll figure it out, Kurt. I got a couple friends whose sons play for Greenfield. I'll figure out where this kid was first half of the season.
Because he was nowhere to be seen for Greenfield Central in the first few games. In fact, the entire first half of the season. Again, his first game was back on December 17th. Of course, that's according to stats posted on Max Preps here by GC. But either way, he was not really heard of a lot. He has really come on strong here in the back half of the season.
And you see the replay there. There's just a little bit of contact, and so Coach is going to get Mullins and Moles off the floor, which I don't blame him. You certainly don't want to get a player like Moles or Mullins injured in what amounts to a blowout basketball game. Get them out.
We've likely seen Mullins and Moles for their last time here tonight. 31 points for Mullins, 17 for Dylan Moles here today. And so this will bring Robertson and DeJarnett back onto the court.
And those are both starters, so, I mean, it's not like you're missing much.
And that's the other thing, too, here, Jim. We mentioned the deep bench earlier as the ball goes up into the rafters, but we mentioned it, GC has a very, very deep bench. You have many players on the bench right now who are capable of starting this on this squad.
No doubt about it, and again, that's why they're going to be a tough out. But now, again, you're going to work on this set. You're going to say, all right, guys, we got to pretend that Mullins and Moles are in foul trouble. We got to win without them. How are we going to do that?
How about like that?
Yeah, by offensive rebounds and putbacks by guys like Jay Kenton. You're going to have to learn to play like this. This is great experience for Greenfield.
Isaac Wilson getting his first bucket of the day.
So this is an opportunity now for Kirchhoff to bring the ball up the floor, right? You may have to do this. And you don't want it to be the first time in the sectional championship, 4,600 people in this place just burning it down with noise. Put them in a spot.
Pushing it ahead and turning it over again is Pendleton Heights. So GC will have the ball back here. Now, Jim, if GC scores on this next possession, that will institute the running clock. In fact, they have already instituted it, actually, it appears.
Okay, and again, that's probably the coaches. You know, again, the coaches can get together and say, hey, look, let's just it's been fun and it's been real, but it ain't been real fun. So let's just run the clock and get out of here.
So running clock is in effect here for the remainder of the contest. And another scoop and score there by Jacob Hinton.
Nice no-look pass by Robertson right at the top of the key. And Hinton with that identical, I mean, just that little baby hook, reverse hook. Almost another turnover.
Mazingo. And he turns it over. You got to give some props to Evan Mazingo tonight. He has 13 points for Pendleton Heights. He's led the way here for the Arabians, and he's put the team kind of on his back here in a situation that, of course, nobody's ever really a fan of being in, but you got to give at least a tip of the cap to that young man.
And you saw as Coach Ballard took him out of the game, he kind of stopped him. Mazingo, obviously frustrated with the outcome, was just kind of on the way to the end of the bench to probably, I mean, they're high school kids, so he's probably going to sit over here and sulk a little bit. And Coach grabbed him and said, you played a heck of a game, son, as Robertson gets the turnaround lay in there.
That's 4 points now here for him.
But yeah, he just said, I'm going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you drop your head. You played well. You have nothing to drop your head about.
Again, Mazingo, one of the several sophomores on this Pendleton Heights squad. So if you're a sophomore leading the way with 13 points, something to build off of. Of course, that's certainly the case for Braylon Mullins on the other side of this court.
Yeah, and again, assuming as you see the next ball game there on February 2nd.
Again, Rob Brown, and of course you and Jim Lees are going to be on the call as Delta takes on Greenfield Central right here at Dillon Automotive Gymnasium. That's going to be February 2nd, tip-off at around 7:30 here on NineStar TV.
Now, is that the world-famous Rob Brown who's been winning media awards right and left?
Indeed it is, actually. He's got a whole bunch of awards. He got one from Ron Colley, and then also another three-pointer there by GC. Or rather, for Pendleton Heights, rather. That's Isaac Wilson knocking it down. Rob Brown getting honored with a media award from the IHSAA, but also getting honored by the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association.
So if he gets a Grammy and an Emmy, he's swept them all, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Right.
He has hit the, I guess, the Broadcasting Grand Slam.
Yeah, I don't know if he's can sing at all or can act, but he needs to work on it. I look forward to it. I've never met Rob.
Rob Brown is an excellent, excellent man. He is certainly someone who is good to know.
Yeah, I heard that a million times. John Herrick, Ron Kelly grad, and also NineStar play-by-play guy for us, as well as WIBC employee, has nothing but wonderful things to say about him.
Robertson can't convert, gets his own rebound, dumps it off, and no shot's going to be an offensive foul here on GC. That's DeJarnett.
I think they're going to say it was on Robertson. He gets his board, he gets his own down and then goes in.
No, they're going to say it was DeJarnett.
Okay, all right.
In position there was Joe Estes there for Pendleton Heights. So we're taking into the final minute here. Again, it is a running clock, even though the ball is dead at the moment. Greenfield Central coming away with a momentum-sustaining win here today as they get ready to go to Muncie Central tomorrow for the Muncie Central tournament. Who they're going to be playing in that game has yet to be determined, but either way, they have a lot to look forward to coming up. Here's Joe Estes at the line here, and he makes his first foul shot to get himself in the scorer's column late in this ball game. As for Pendleton Heights, they got another tough outing coming up tomorrow night. They're going to be back home up in Pendleton as they take on a very good Hamilton Southeastern squad.
No rest for these poor Arabians, I'll tell you. Now, it looks to me, from what I'm looking at, Greenfield will play Indianapolis Chittard in that tournament.
There you go. Bishop Chittard building up their own basketball program as well over the last few years.
Yeah, and then, of course, Muncie Central will be there, and I don't know who else is there, but probably like most of those tournaments, you'll have a consolation game between the two losers at about 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and the championship game at 8.
Final 10 seconds. And Greenfield Central off to their best start in years. They'll move to 13-1 on the year, 5-1 in conference play. They get the win tonight here over the Pendleton Heights Arabians, who drop now to 4-12, 0-5 in HHC play. 31 points tonight by Braylon Mullins. Needless to say, he would probably get my vote for the player of the game here today. Jim Leisure, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I 100% agree on that. I mean, Mullins clearly was the player of the game, although Greenfield was they just had way too many players. And with the injuries to Braxton and the lack of senior leadership and depth for Pendleton, honestly, just a bit of a mismatch tonight.
Indeed, it has been. Well, I certainly hope you have a good call coming up on February 2nd. I will see you next at Newcastle for February 24th. Looking forward to it.
As always, great gym, great location. Love working with you.
Special thanks to our NineStar TV crew here tonight. Final score once again at 76-44. Greenfield Central knocks off Pendleton Heights alongside Jim Leisure. I'm Kurt Darling saying so long till next time. You have been watching HHC Conference Basketball.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows. Wherever you find your favorite app,